You know what breaks my heart? Watching incredible women waste years trying to crack the code of male behavior, following advice that's not just wrong. It's actually sabotaging their chances at real love. Here's something nobody talks about. Men don't fall in love the way you've been told, not even close. And understanding this difference, it's going to change everything about how you approach relationships. So if you're tired of wondering why he pulled away, why he never committed, or why it always seems like you're doing all the emotional work, stay with me. Because what I'm about to share might make you rethink everything you thought you knew about attraction. Let me ask you something honest. Have you ever felt that gut-wrenching confusion when a guy who seems so into you suddenly goes cold? Like one day he's texting you constantly, making plans, talking about the future, and then boom, radio silence. Or worse, he sticks around but never actually commits? Yeah, I know that feeling drives you crazy. And here's what's frustrating. Most dating advice tells you to play games, to make him chase, to act unavailable. But I'm going to tell you something that might shock you. That advice is exactly what's keeping you stuck. I'm going to be real with you. I've been on both sides of this. I've been the guy who disappeared, the guy who kept things casual when the woman wanted more. And I've also been the guy who fell so deeply in love that nothing else mattered. And you know what the difference was? It wasn't the games. It wasn't the chase. It was something completely different that I didn't even understand until recently. After years of studying psychology, human behavior, and having brutally honest conversations with other men, I finally understand what actually happens in a man's brain when he falls in love. And trust me, it's nothing like what you see in movies. So let's talk about what's really happening inside a man's mind. Dr. Helen Fisher, this brilliant anthropologist who's dedicated her life to studying love, discovered that falling in love happens in 3 distinct stages. But here's the thing nobody tells you. Men and women experience these stages completely differently. Stage 1 is lust, and I need you to understand something critical here. Lust is not love. It's not even close. When a man first sees you and feels that magnetic pull, that's testosterone flooding his system. It's raw, it's physical, and honestly, it's pretty shallow at this point. This is where so many women make their first mistake. They feel this intense chemistry and think, this must be special, this must mean something. But for him, his brain is literally on a chemical high that scientists compare to cocaine. Yeah, you heard that right. That intensity you're feeling from him, it's the same neurological response as a drug addiction. And here's where it gets uncomfortable. During these early stages, when his testosterone is sky high, there's another hormone that's supposed to help him bond with you. It's called oxytocin. You might have heard of it as the cuddle hormone or the bonding hormone. But here's the brutal truth. All that testosterone, it actually blocks oxytocin from working. So while you might be developing feelings and getting emotionally attached, his brain is literally chemically preventing him from bonding with you the same way. This isn't an excuse for bad behavior. This is just biology. And understanding it changes everything. This is why rushing into physical intimacy can backfire so spectacularly. And before you think I'm being old-fashioned or judgmental, hear me out. I've lived this. I've been the guy who slept with someone early and then completely lost interest within a week. Not because she did anything wrong, not because she wasn't amazing, but because my brain never got the chance to develop real attachment. There's this phenomenon scientists discovered called the Coolidge Effect. It's been observed in almost every male mammal on the planet. Basically, males lose interest in mating with the same female, but show renewed interest in new females. Now, I know what you're thinking. Are you seriously comparing men to animals? And look, I wish I could tell you we're above this, but we're not as evolved as we'd like to think. When sex happens too fast, this effect can kick in. Suddenly, the chase is over, the mystery is gone, and his primitive brain is already looking for the next conquest. Does this happen every single time? No. Can men still fall in love after early intimacy? Absolutely. But it's less likely. Much less likely. And if you're looking for lasting love rather than temporary excitement, why stack the odds against yourself? So if the early stages are all about lust and chemicals, when does real love actually develop for men? This is where it gets interesting. Stage 2 is attraction, also known as romantic love. This is when he starts thinking about you constantly, when he actually wants to spend time with you beyond just physical connection, when your happiness starts to matter to him. This stage can last anywhere from 6 months to 2 years. But the real magic happens in stage 3, attachment. This is where most relationships either deepen into something real or fall apart completely. Around the 4-year mark in most relationships, that initial infatuation starts to fade. And here's where many people panic and think the love is dying. But what's actually happening is beautiful. Those bonding hormones, oxytocin and vasopressin, finally start doing their work. This is when a man transitions from being addicted to the thrill of you to actually loving the reality of you. Your quirks, your flaws, your morning breath, all of it. Now let me destroy one of the most damaging pieces of advice you've probably heard. Make him chase you. Please stop doing this. Here's what actually happens. A secure, emotionally healthy man will show interest in you. He'll pursue to a degree. But if you start playing hard to get, if you start with the manipulation tactics, you know what he does? He moves on. The only men who respond to being made to chase are men with issues, men who are addicted to the pursuit, men who lose interest the moment they actually catch you. Is that really who you want? Think about it logically. If you have to trick someone into wanting you, do they actually want you? Or do they want the fantasy you're performing? So if games don't work, what does? Time and genuine connection. I know that's not the exciting answer you wanted. You wanted me to give you some secret technique or perfect text to send. But real love doesn't come from techniques. It comes from consistently showing up as your authentic self and allowing him to do the same. Here's what actually makes a man fall in love. Feeling understood without having to explain himself. Feeling respected for who he is, not who you want him to become. Feeling like he can be vulnerable without being judged. Feeling like you enhance his life rather than complicate it. And yes, we need to talk about sex again, because there's this idea floating around that men fall in love through physical intimacy, that the way to a man's heart is through the bedroom. And honestly, that's backwards. Men can absolutely have incredible sex with someone they have zero emotional connection with. We're wired that way. But falling in love, that requires something deeper. It requires that emotional intimacy that can only develop over time. I'll be honest with you about my own journey. I spent years having casual connections. And yeah, in the moment it felt good. But afterwards, there was always this emptiness, this craving for something I couldn't even name because I'd never experienced it. It wasn't until I actually invested time in building emotional intimacy first, that I understood what everyone meant by making love versus just having sex. They're not even in the same category. Here's something else nobody tells you. Genuine love takes time to develop in a man's brain. Not days, not weeks, months, sometimes years. I know in this instant gratification culture, that's frustrating to hear. You want to know after the 3rd date if this is going somewhere. You want certainty, you want guarantees. But love doesn't work on your timeline, and trying to force it or rush it kills it every single time. This doesn't mean you should waste years on someone who's clearly not interested. There's a difference between patient investment and being someone's backup plan. But it does mean that if you want something real, you have to let it unfold naturally. How do you tell the difference between a guy who's genuinely developing feelings and a guy who's stringing you along? Watch his consistency. Does he show up when it's inconvenient? Does he introduce you to his life? Or do you exist in a bubble? Does he make plans beyond next weekend? Is he interested in your thoughts, your dreams, your fears, or just your body? A man who's falling in love will want to know you, all of you, He'll ask questions. He'll remember details. He'll show up in ways that matter. But here's the part that's going to make some of you uncomfortable. You can't make someone fall in love with you. You can't force it, manipulate it, or earn it by being perfect. The best thing you can do is work on yourself. Become someone with a rich, full life that a man would be lucky to be part of. Not someone whose entire existence revolves around getting male attention. Men fall in love with women who have their own lives, their own passions, their own purpose. Women who would be fine with or without him, but choose to include him because he adds value, not because they need him to feel complete. And one more thing. Real love requires vulnerability from both people. If you're putting up walls, playing it cool, never showing your real feelings because you're terrified of being hurt, you're preventing the very connection you claim to want. Yes, vulnerability is scary. Yes, you might get hurt. But you know what's scarier? Wasting years in shallow connections because you were too afraid to risk anything real. Look, I'm not going to lie to you and say that understanding male psychology guarantees you'll find love. Life doesn't work that way. But what I can tell you is this. When you stop playing games, stop trying to manipulate outcomes, and start showing up as your authentic self while giving him space to do the same, everything changes. You'll stop attracting the wrong men. You'll stop wasting time on guys who were never going to commit. And you'll start building the kind of connection that actually has a chance of becoming something real. So here's my challenge to you. For the next month, drop all the strategies. Stop overthinking every text. Stop analyzing every move. Just be yourself. Be honest about what you want, and watch what happens. If you found this helpful, do me a favor and subscribe to this channel. I share real talk about relationships every week. No sugarcoating, no BS, just honest insights that might actually help you build something meaningful. And drop a comment below telling me what surprised you most about how men fall in love. Remember, for your relationships to change, you need to change. Not by becoming someone else, but by becoming more authentically yourself. I'll see you in the next one.